All right, it's tuning day. The guy's on his way over. So I'm just kind of going through and giving everything a last double check. Pretty stoked. Get this thing dialed in. I did order a new spring. I had a 0.3 bar, or about a 4.5 pound spring, and then some like stiffer ones. I don't know if I had lost one or what, but I was able to order just the spring by itself. So I got a 0.5 bar, or about a 7 pound spring in it now. I want to go over this adjustment with him when he gets here. He told me some stuff about this, but I don't remember exactly what he said. So I'm going to play with that most likely before we go do anything. But we're going to be doing street tuning, so I've got it all sorted out to drive on the road again. So yeah, you should be here any minute, and we're going to get started. All right, well, I didn't get anything filmed. I was too busy paying attention and listening to what he had to say, and then we drove around a lot. So yeah, I didn't film anything. It's not done. We only had about 3 hours today to mess with it. He made a bunch of changes in Holly's software, rescaling the maps, to, when you look at these tables, there's like the barometric pressure, map sensor type stuff. Naturally aspirated, it would go from whatever to whatever. But when you go from to boost, you need to expand that. And then, so there's several different tables you had to go through and kind of manually reset the scaling. And then he kind of took a stab at, changing some timing and fueling and stuff, kind of based on how it was tuned before and what we expected to see. And went out and just started driving. And then he would sit in the passenger seat with the computer and make adjustments. We would try different scenarios and situations, and yeah, so we had some stumbling points. For a minute we thought maybe we was having a fuel pump issue or something, but ended up hooking up my fuel pressure gauge and zip tied it. Had to take the hood off and zip tied it to the windshield wiper so he could see it through the windshield as we drove, to basically rule out fuel pump. And the fuel pressure was stable and solid, so just basically hadn't gone far enough with the changes, and actually maybe too much in some areas, I don't know. But it's starting to work. We got to a point where it would pull pretty decent. We didn't do anything very hard yet, but got it. At one point, I reached almost 5 pounds of boost on a short pull. It does feel good. I've always had a weird dip in the torque. I've talked about it before, between like 25 and 3,500. And it feels like the boost is coming on by then. And at this point already, it feels like that dip has kind of been filled in. It's kind of like, if you short shift the RPM where it recovers in the next gear, it would just bog and take a long time to kind of build and get back up on its feet. So that already feels much better. So I'm looking forward to our next session. Will be in a couple days, when our schedules align again. Just gonna keep working on it, but pretty stoked. Didn't have any real problems, no leaks, no mechanical problems. I do have a leaky steering box, but that's kind of normal for this thing. I've had that problem for a while. I just need to finally break down one of these days and put some new seals in that steering box. Yeah, that's where it stands right now. It's very loud. Not exhaust wise, but just turbo noises through this air filter. Holy moly, I'm gonna have to build a box around that It sounds pretty cool and all, but I know it's gonna get old very quickly. I like the UMP, Unique Metal products, I believe. They're like the centrifugal style filter housing you kind of see like on heavy equipment a lot. I think I might put one of those under there. That would help shield the filter from getting dirty as fast, and I assume would hopefully kill a lot of that sound. I don't want to kill all of it, but it's loud. You know, when you chop the throttle, it you know, we weren't really building enough pressure to get the blow-off valve to open, and so you kind of get the old school like 80s turbo surge sounds. It's loud. So to see, it's gonna be a future project doing something about that. This is really the first time I've driven this on the road since I did the last rear suspension changes. Man, this thing rides so smooth. So smooth. Yeah, I guess that's really it. So far, so good. Like I said, I put a 7-pound spring in it, and that's really where he feels is kind of a safe limit, not knowing what the ring gap is and stuff like that. That's kind of where we're going to leave it for now. And eventually I'm going to ramp it up, but I'm going to put together another bottom end for this thing that's going to have, I'm hoping to do a 1.3 block. I have a nice crank. It's still a cast crank, but I'm going to spend a bunch of time sanding and grinding on it to smooth out all the throws and the webs and everything, the counterweights to kind of, there's a lot of like gnarly cast lines, a lot of like stress risers. I'm going to blend that stuff all out, radius all the corners like on the hollow rod throws. Some people I've talked to, some old school engine builders, say that's worth a lot of strength to just make them smooth, get rid of any stress risers. Because trying to find a forged crank these days is getting pretty tough and pretty expensive. So yeah, I want to clean up that crank. Then I'll probably get it micro polished, and then I'm gonna do hopefully a set of forged rods for a GT, Swift GT motor, and then I'll use 8-valve 1.6 pistons, probably stock bore size, so it'll be like a 1 millimeter overbore or so. Off the top of my head. And then hopefully I can find some forged pistons. All this stuff's kind of getting hard to find, but that's the plan, because I'd like to kind of push the limits with another engine that's more built for boost. So that's the plan. So anyway, I'll pick this up again when we start again here in a couple days. All right, getting my computer fired up. We are working on the second day of tuning. Haven't really filmed anything because I don't want to put the guy on camera. But anyway, I think I described before, we went through all the tables and got everything recalibrated for boost. Not calibrated, but scaled. All the fuel tables and timing tables, all that sort of thing. So I'm waiting for him to come over, and we're going to continue on. I did quite a bit of driving on the first day. We only spent like 2 or 3 hours on it, and he thinks we're about 60% done. So I think he's got the fuel pretty close. So I think we're going to finish dialing that in and then start bringing the timing back and start making some power. So I'll pop in here and there and kind of update where things are.
Rips for a samurai. become a toy.
Okay, so the tuning's all done. We ended up changing out, I had a 0.5 bar spring, 7-ish pounds. And I'm not sure what the adjustment maybe was a little loose, but it was only making about 4 pounds of boost with that spring. And so we ended up putting a 0.8 bar spring. And so now on this gauge, wide open, it's making about 8 pounds of boost. And it rips. Pretty stoked. It makes considerably more power than it used to. And the biggest thing is kind of the mid-range torque, which is really what I was hoping to get out of it. At each shift recovery, sometimes, especially if you short shifted a little or something, sometimes it would just fall out of the power band and just kind of struggle to pick back up. And that's not the case anymore. Now it just pulls through and runs great. We got one short little video of driving it that the tuner took while we were going, but I'm going to get some more, and I'm working on putting together a little day trip to go down to the dunes. And I'll get some video of it. But man, I'm happy. It runs so good. So I think the first day we spent about 3 hours, and probably a similar amount of time today. And the tuner says it's still, with timing and everything, it's still set pretty conservative and safe. Because my big thing is I want to protect this engine. I'm going to build a new bottom end, basically a whole new engine. That's made to really, could be built for boost. So better connecting rods and, proper ring gap and all that kind of stuff for boost. So I didn't want to push this one super hard. But now it just runs great. It always felt pretty fun in the dirt, because you're keeping the RPMs high and really driving it hard. But on the street, it always was just such a turd. And now it's peppy on the road. It's actually fun to drive. So I can't wait to see what it's like in the dirt. What else? I think that's really about it. Super loud. I'm gonna have to do something about this air filter. Probably with helmets on and everything, it's gonna be fine, but the amount of noises that comes through that air filter is, it's something else. It's loud. So I'm gonna build, I'm not sure. I may see if I can just find a filter for it. I like the UMP, Unique Metal Products. It's kind of a Donaldson style, like a centrifugal can. So it helps fling the light, the particles to the outside. I think that would help a lot with noise. And also help keep the filter cleaner longer. So we'll see. I'm gonna do something about that. I think with helmets on, everything it'll be fine, but even under low RPMs, you really hear a lot of turbo sounds. It sounds cool and everything, don't get me wrong, but I think after a while it's gonna wear on my nerves. I need to go through my little touch screen and kind of reset up its layout, because you get I don't remember if it's 6 or 9 things you can choose that you want to monitor. And I was watching videos on it. You can set it up for boost and have a little boost display on it. So I like to do that because honestly, this gauge, I like that it's analog and everything, but strapped in, it's kind of like this, hidden behind the steering wheel. So I want to set that up so I can monitor boost. And then I think there was some other stuff I wanted to change up on it. I think that's about it. Pretty excited, pretty stoked to get this thing out in the dirt now. See how she does. I was pulling away from a stop sign and it actually spun the tires without even trying, and that's never happened before on the street. So that's kind of cool, I guess. Actually took it on the highway. I hadn't actually driven this thing on the highway since I built it. And man, works good. I was surprised at how just drives. The road manners are actually really good on this thing. Just tracks straight as an arrow. You know, tires, none of the tires shook. You know, there's no, tires have never been balanced. So yeah, I'm just pleased, just super pleased. The next thing I got to do is order up some more heat shielding stuff. I did a bunch of temporary stuff just to get through this tuning process. Built this little shield to protect the brakes. And that seemed to work okay, but it's just kind of hokey. This was just to keep the turbo from cooking these two hoses. So I want to sleeve these with some like fiberglass stuff. I pick up quite a bit of heat here. I put some of this reflective gold tape on here, but it still gets pretty hot, so I'm not sure. I'll probably do like, I have some aluminum 3-inch tube, so I might slice some pieces out of that and make something that I can like hose clamp to here and do a little air gap to separate the turbo from that. The intercooler seems to work pretty good. I wish I would have thought to bring my laser temperature gun, but you know, you could feel this side being warm and this side, you know, significantly cooler. Got to do some little stuff. Like I want to reinforce this some more. I got to get a longer stud. It's just like barely working. Little things, but you know, now it's tuned and dialed in, and I can just tinker with little nitpicky stuff. So yeah, kind of, I know this is kind of a boring video just talking about it, but I'm pretty stoked. I'm gonna schedule a session to go just get a dyno horsepower pull just to see what the difference is. Luckily there's a shop that this has been on their dyno before, so I'll have true before and after numbers with the same dyno. But I tell you what, just seat of pants, it's got to be, I don't know, it's got to be close to doubling the power I had before. Like, it's crazy. So I'm excited to see what that really is. You know, in the tuner, you know, we ran it on his dyno that he used to have. He's kind of gotten out of doing that as full-time work. Now he just kind of does it on the side, so he doesn't have the dyno anymore. But his dyno was really conservative, and it made 52 horsepower to the wheels on his. And just, you know, with him in the car, he really thinks it'd make 100 horsepower on that dyno, which is pretty crazy. I think a big part, I feel like mid-range power is where it really gained the most. And I feel like with having some boost, it kind of makes the cam work better. 'Cause before, naturally aspirated, you know, the bottom end was just really terrible. And now with, you know, basically now you've just got a higher pressure differential between intake and exhaust. And so with the valve overlap and everything it had before, you know, with low engine speeds, it just didn't move air well. And so now it just works better. It's crazy. And it's cool because it feels like it's less pipey. Like before, it just was real lazy and real lame until about 4,500, and then it would start to come alive. And now, shoot, hopefully, I don't know if in his little video you could see the tack, but it definitely comes on much earlier. And that's great. It's like I said, when you're in a gear and you grab the next gear, it's just got torque there now, and it just pulls through it. It gets back on the higher RPMs. Pretty sweet. So I'll include that little clip that he took on one little run through the gears. And then that's it for now. I'll get some videos soon, hopefully this thing out in the dirt. And thanks for watching.